The real history of the British Empire. The British Empire was the largest empire in world history. At its height in the early 20th century, it controlled nearly 1/4 of the world's land and governed around 400 million people, about 1/4 of the global population at that time. Its territories stretched across North America, the Caribbean, Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania. The phrase, "the sun never sets on the British Empire," was not just a slogan. It reflected the reality that somewhere in the empire, it was always daytime. But how did a small island nation off the coast of Europe build such a massive empire? The answer lies in sea power, trade, industrial strength, political strategy, and at times, ruthless expansion. Early foundations: sea power and exploration. The foundations of the empire were laid in the late 16th century. England began challenging powerful European empires like Spain and Portugal. A major turning point came in 1588, when England defeated the Spanish Armada under Queen Elizabeth I. This victory established England as a serious naval power and opened the door for overseas expansion. In 1600, the English crown granted a charter to the powerful East India Company. At first, the company focused on trade with Asia, especially spices, silk, tea, and cotton textiles. It set up trading posts in India and gradually built military power to protect its interests. Over time, trade turned into territorial control. Meanwhile, English settlers began establishing colonies in North America. Jamestown, founded in 1607, became the first permanent English settlement. Over the next century, 13 colonies were established along the eastern coast of North America. Expansion through war and strategy. The 18th century was a period of intense competition between Britain and France. The most important conflict was the 7 Years' War. This war was fought across Europe, North America, and India. Britain emerged victorious, gaining control of Canada from France and strengthening its position in India. India gradually became the jewel in the crown of the empire. After the Indian Rebellion of 1857, also known as the Sepoy Mutiny, the British government dissolved the East India Company and took direct control. India was ruled by the British Crown from 1858 onward, and Queen Victoria was later declared Empress of India. In Africa, Britain expanded rapidly during the late 19th century in a period known as the Scramble for Africa. European powers divided the continent among themselves. Britain gained control of Egypt, Sudan, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, Nigeria, and many other territories. Control of Egypt was particularly important because of the Suez Canal, a crucial trade route to India. The empire also included Australia, New Zealand, parts of Southeast Asia such as Malaya and Singapore, and numerous islands in the Caribbean and Pacific. The Industrial Revolution and economic power. One of the main reasons Britain was able to build such a vast empire was the Industrial Revolution. Beginning in the late 1700s, Britain became the first country to industrialize. New inventions like the steam engine, spinning machines, and mechanized factories transformed production. Britain could now produce goods faster and cheaper than its rivals. It exported textiles, machinery, and manufactured products around the world. In return, colonies supplied raw materials such as cotton from India, rubber from Malaya, gold and diamonds from Africa, and tea from China and India. The Royal Navy protected shipping routes and ensured British dominance at sea. By the 19th century, Britain was known as the workshop of the world. The American Revolution. A major loss despite its growing power, the empire faced resistance. One of the earliest and most significant challenges came from its own colonies in North America. In 1776, the 13 colonies declared independence, leading to the American Revolutionary War. After years of fighting, Britain recognized the independence of the United States in 1783. This was a major blow to British pride and power. However, instead of collapsing, the empire shifted its focus toward Asia, Africa, and the Pacific. In many ways, the loss of America encouraged Britain to expand even further elsewhere. The height of empire, by the early 20th century, the British Empire had reached its peak. After World War I, Britain gained additional territories from the defeated Ottoman and German empires, including parts of the Middle East, such as Iraq and Palestine. London became the center of global finance and politics. English became an international language. British legal systems, education models, railways, and administrative systems were introduced in many colonies. However, beneath this power and prestige lay deep inequalities and tensions. The dark side of empire, the British Empire was not only about trade and progress. It was also built on exploitation and control. In India, British economic policies damaged local industries. Heavy taxation and the export of food during times of drought contributed to devastating famines. Millions died in famines during the 19th century. In Africa, colonial borders were drawn without regard to ethnic or cultural divisions. These artificial boundaries later contributed to political instability and conflict. The empire was also deeply involved in the transatlantic slave trade. British ships transported millions of Africans to the Americas as enslaved people. Although Britain abolished the slave trade in 1807 and slavery in 1833, the damage had already been immense. Resistance movements grew across the empire. From India to Kenya to Ireland, people demanded independence and self-rule. World wars and the beginning of the end. The two world wars changed everything. During World War I and World War II, millions of soldiers from India, Africa, the Caribbean, and other colonies fought for Britain. These wars weakened Britain economically and militarily. After 1945, Britain was no longer the world's leading superpower. The United States and the Soviet Union had taken that role. At the same time, nationalist movements became stronger. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi in India led peaceful resistance campaigns against British rule. In 1947, India gained independence and Pakistan was created as a separate state. Across Africa and Asia, colonies gradually gained independence during the 1950s and 1960s. Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and many others became sovereign nations. From empire to Commonwealth, as the empire dissolved, Britain created the Commonwealth of Nations, a voluntary association of independent countries, many of which were former colonies. The Commonwealth promotes cooperation, trade, and shared values, but its members are fully independent states. By the late 20th century, the British Empire had effectively ended. Hong Kong, one of Britain's last major colonies, was returned to China in 1997. Lasting legacy, although the empire no longer exists, its influence remains strong. English is one of the most widely spoken languages in the world. Many countries use parliamentary systems modeled after Britain's government. Legal systems, railways, universities, and civil services in former colonies often have roots in the colonial period. However, debates continue about the empire's legacy. Some argue that it brought modernization, global trade, and political institutions. Others emphasize the exploitation, racism, cultural destruction, and economic inequalities it created. In recent years, discussions about colonial history have intensified. Statues have been removed, and governments have debated issues of reparations and historical responsibility. Conclusion: the British Empire was one of the most powerful and influential forces in world history. From its early beginnings as a maritime trading nation to its peak as a ruler of vast territories across the globe, it reshaped continents and cultures. Its story is not simple. It includes innovation and infrastructure, but also conquest and suffering. It spread language, law, and technology, but it also imposed foreign rule on millions of people. Understanding the real history of the British Empire means recognizing both its achievements and its injustices. Its rise and fall shaped the modern world, politically, economically, and culturally, in ways that still affect global society today. The empire may be gone, but its impact continues to shape our world in the 21st century.